السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أرحب بكم مرة أخرى أعزائي الطلبة في لقاء جديد مع موضوع آخر نتناوله لهذا اليوم. Our topic today is passive voice. You all have something or studied something about passive voice earlier, and today we are going to explain it again. And let us start with understanding what is active voice in order to understand what is passive voice. The active voice is when the sentence has a specific construction. In the active voice sentence, the subject of a sentence performs the verb's action. We say that the sentence is in the active voice when we have the subject in its original slot. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone. It is used when the performer of an action is none, when the subject is none. For example, monkeys adore or like bananas. The cashier counted the money, and the dog chased the cat. So all these sentences are in the active voice. On the other hand, we have the passive voice. The difference between the active voice sentences and the passive voice sentences is that the subject is not founded in its original slot or place. A sentence is in the passive voice when the subject is acted on by the verb. So the verb always comes before the subject. The subject here comes at the end. And who is placed in the slot of the subject? The object. The object comes first, and the object becomes the subject of the new sentence of the passive voice sentence. Also, we use the passive voice when the subject is unknown. When we do not know who did the action, we use passive voice sentences. Or when we are interested with what happened and not interested with who did it. So the importance of the subject is not as the importance of the action itself. That's why we neglect the use of the subject at the beginning of the sentence. And the same examples we have taken earlier, we can change them into the passive voice, and we say bananas are adored, liked by monkeys. So I kept the subject in the same sentence, but its importance is not the same. So I add it at the end, and it is always preceded by the word by, okay? And we see that the construction becomes that in this way we have the object first, and we have an auxiliary, which is determined by the tense, and we have the main verb in the past participle tense, okay? So we don't have it in this is not the past tense, it is the past participle of adore and liked as well. And by the end we can add all the rest of the sentence at the end, and we can add the subject if we would like to add it by preceding it with the word by. This second one, the money was counted. I didn't add by the cashier, so it's not as important for me. I'm interested with the action or the act of counting the money. The money was counted. That's what I am interested in. I'm not interested with who count the money, okay? That's why I didn't add by the cashier, okay? And we have here the squirrel was chased by the dog. The squirrel, Sinjab, or the cat, was chased by the dog. Now I am interested with who chased the squirrel. That's why I added at the end. But what's more important for me is that who was chased, and that's why I put squirrel here at the beginning, while it is originally the object of the sentence. And we see that we have used auxiliaries according to the tense. The following examples handles several tenses and how they are changed according to the tense. Here we have simple present tense. We see that after the object we use is if it is a singular, and we see simple past tense we use was or were according to the object if it is singular or plural, and we have present continuous. We use is or are after the object, and we use being to resemble the continuity of the original sentence, and we put the verb in past participle. We pay attention to that. And we have past continuous tense. We use also being, but we have was instead of is because we have past, and we have the past participle here. Present perfect the same, have already, and we use have already been. We use been to resemble that have is followed by been because it is present perfect, and when belongs to the passive voice. And we have here past perfect tenses, and we have had, been as well, helped, had instead of had or have or has. Future will not be, it will become, you will be, the book will not be opened. Oh, this one belongs to this one. He will not open, the book will not be opened. So we add be after will because will already accepts an infinitive, and we cannot put opened here. That's why we used be, and we follow it with the past participle. The future continuous tense, look at the combination of will and after will we have be and being. Be for the infinitive and being for the continuity. Written belongs to the passive voice. And present perfect continuous, has been, being, it will become, because we have also here it should be sorry, I corrected. It should be your mother has been driving the car, and it becomes the car has been being driven, because I have perfect tense, continuous tense, and driven belongs to the passive voice. And we have past perfect continuous as well. We have had, been, being hoisted by the police officer. You can check the examples and see the difference between them. We move for another issue in passive voice. We are dealing with transitive verbs that take one object, but sometimes these transitive verbs take two objects. So those verbs that take two objects, we have a list of them. In addition, there are at least 40 verbs that take more than one verb. We have give, promise, tell, pay, show, order, and teach, etc. These objects are a direct object, usually a thing. The direct object always refers to a thing, and indirect object, which is always refers, or usually actually refers to a person. If the direct object is placed before the indirect, they are joined by the preposition to, occasionally for, like in this example. He gave a book to his brother. This is the direct object, and this is the indirect object. When we have the indirect object at the end, we put excuse me, sorry, we put to and sometimes for before it. And if we have another example, he bought a present for his friend, we see this is the direct object, this is the indirect object, and we add for before the indirect object. If the indirect object is placed first, no preposition is needed to join them, like in the following examples, the same as the above one. The only difference is the sequence of the objects. He gave his brother comes here first, and we do not need to add to. He gave his brother a book. That's it. He bought his friend a present. That's it. So if we put present at the end, we don't need to follow or to precede his friend with 4 or precede his brother with 2. Okay? In the passive voice, it is more usual to make the indirect object the subject of the passive voice. Now, the previous sentences were in the active voice. So, how can I change them into the passive voice? I change them into the passive voice by putting the indirect object first. Why? Because we have a greater interest in persons than in things. Usually, okay? But sometimes if the direct object is of special interest for us when we are speaking about, it can also become the subject of the passive voice. We will see that in the following samples. The preposition to or for in this way is being retained before the indirect object. We need to add for and to before the indirect object when we put the direct object as the subject of the passive voice sentence. Let us look together at the following examples. My father gave John a book for his birthday. John is the indirect object. Book is the direct object. For his birthday is the complement of the sentence. Sorry. In the passive voice, we have two states. State 1, we have John at the beginning because we are interested in persons. Now, John was given a book for his birthday. That's it. But if I'm interested in what John was given for his birthday in the book itself, I will say a book was given and John cannot come alone. We should precede it with 2 or 4. Was given to John for his birthday, and the rest of the sentence comes regularly with no difference in the two states. Let's take another examples. We have the following sentence: people will show the queen the new building. Now, if I'm interested in the indirect object, which is the queen, I will say, which is more regular because the indirect object always speaks about or stands for actually people, okay? The queen will be shown the new buildings. But if I'm interested in the new buildings, I will say the new buildings will be shown what? I should add 2 or 4 to the queen. The second example, the doctor ordered me to stay in bed. We have a prepositional clause here, okay? To stay in bed. I was, pay attention, me is changed into I. Pay attention, me cannot be spotted here. I should change it into I. I was ordered to stay in bed. Well, to stay in bed is not that important to put it here and to let it become the subject. Mostly I will use I in such kind of sentences, okay? And we have another example. They offered my father a post as a manager. My father was offered a post as a manager. And if I am interested in what was given to my father, I will say a post as a manager was offered what? I will add 2 or 4 to my father, and that's it. I will have a passive voice sentence so simply just by paying attention to the order of the words, to the tense, to the auxiliaries I use, to the past participle of the verb, and to what kind of object I am using. If I pay attention to these rules, I will check all my solutions in a good way. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you are all in a good state. Thank you very much. Goodbye.